Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.
Hello and welcome to the latest edition of NEWSWAVE, written, produced and recorded in the heart of Cornwall by the team here at Chaos Radio. I'm your host Tom Howe and I'll be guiding you through some of the insightful guests and exciting news content that we've enjoyed across Chaos Radio this past week. On today's show, our 100th edition, we join Colin Hamilton, Mayor of St Austell, to reflect on his time in office so far and to learn more about community events, town centre improvements and exciting new developments. We check in with Amy Richardson and Emma Newberry from the Cornwall Community Flood Forum to learn more about flood resilience and their conference, which focused on preparing for a changing environment. As well as that, we take a trip to County Hall in Truro, where we're joined by Kirsty Pellow from the Send Sanctuary UK and Michelle West, a mother who has spent more than a decade navigating the Send system for her two neurodivergent children, to discuss the Every Pair Tells a Story campaign, a national demonstration highlighting failings in said system.
NEWSWAVE.
Now, it's been a busy few months for our town here in St Austell, and at the heart of it all has been Mayor Colin Hamilton, who took up the role back in May. From community events and town centre improvements to exciting new developments like the pump track near Bishop Bronscombe School, Colin's been involved in a wide range of projects aimed at making St Austell a more inclusive, vibrant and welcoming place for everyone. I caught up with him to reflect on his time in office so far, the people and places that have made an impact, and what's still to come.
NEWSWAVE.
Hello, Tom. I am Colin Hamilton. I've had the privilege of being the Mayor of St Austell since May this year, so I'm rapidly approaching the halfway stage in my tenure as the Mayor, and I can truly say it has been an absolutely wonderful experience. Every event that I've had the fortune to go to has been uplifting. The people have been really special, and I'm just blown away by just how friendly and accommodating everybody has been. It's been a real privilege.
You've been so lucky to be involved in so many positive moments in the town over these past few months and back along, but obviously before your time as Mayor too. But I know some particularly dear to your heart we're going to speak about in the next few moments. Let's start with perhaps these excellent photographs from a former colleague of mine, Paul Williams, which have been adorned around a very prominent location in the town centre.
Most certainly, Tom. The plans really date back to the end of 2022, when a whole series of projects were identified to introduce improvements around St Austell, and one of which was the deterioration of the banner around what is the Poundland building. And this year, I'm pleased to say, we actually held an event in the town to select photographs that have been very kindly donated by Paul Williams. They covered a whole raft of different subjects and topics around the town. People had the privilege of being able to come along and select which ones they thought were the best, and we chose the best, and those are the ones that are depicted on the banners, and they look spectacular. There's a superb one of Menna Cuddlewell, which is my favourite, which is why I've mentioned it, but there are equally many others there that depict what an absolutely lovely area we are fortunate enough to live in.
And let's take you on a little walk across town now, over to the Market House area on that little corner. We all know it, and the recent changes by Holy Trinity Church and the piazza area that's there now.
That corner of the town we refer to as the historic quarter. It is in many ways the nicest part of our town. It is the oldest part of our town, and the church, Holy Trinity Church, is an absolutely wonderful church that dates back to around 1250, and it is in remarkably good condition. The grounds around it did not do it justice. It didn't lend itself to any community enjoyment, and we were very, very keen to improve that area. As a result of that, the design studies were undertaken, and I'm pleased to say that is very close to reaching fruition. The only remaining work that needs to be done is actually the laying of bound gravel in certain areas, and it is dependent on the weather, and this weather has just broken. And whether the task will be finished in time for our Remembrance Sunday, this coming Sunday, will be in the lap of somebody way more senior than me. Hopefully it will happen, but if it won't, it will be finished very, very soon afterwards. And it's a mixture of granite and bound gravel, and I have to say it looks extremely smart and impressive. Equally, we've made real steps to make sure that wheelchair access is available onto the site, so it's inclusive, so everybody can come and take part. And we envisage in the summer months people having chairs and tables out there and actually either having events or indeed just enjoying refreshments, perhaps bought from across the road in Trinity Cafe, which is also and the Market House, which are also lovely places to visit.
Indeed. It's not just the town centre that you're looking at making these positive changes, is it? A little bit outside of the centre, there's an exciting development in a local meadow.
This is an example of actually a really fast project. From its first conception around about the middle of this year, it has to be completed under Cornwall Council funding by the end of December, but we are going to have a pump track in the meadows, very close to Bishop Bronscombe School. The landscaping is just about complete. Only yesterday when I visited the site and spoke to the individuals, they were doing the final substructure laying, and they should, as I make this statement, be laying the tarmac today and tomorrow, which will then complete the track. It will then be a case of re-landscaping around the edges of the track, and at that stage, and we are literally looking in the next 2 weeks of actually having a fully functional pump track. And indeed, it will be a really welcome community facility. We held an event prior to the track being made where we went to Bishop Bronscombe School and had an open day, and the public enthusiasm for it was overwhelming. And we found there was a young lady who's in the British team, so it is going to appeal to a very wide range of people, from youngsters to adults. And indeed, in one section of it, on a slightly separate part of the track, there is an area there for very young children to use, but also in the building of it, it's been constructed in such a way that wheelchairs will be able to use it as well. So it's extremely inclusive of people who may not be quite as active as others.
How many hours of practice do you think you'll need to...
I think I'm going to need an immense amount of practice. In the last 19 years, my bicycle has been out about 4 or 5 times. I've done the beast at Bodmin. I won't be doing it again.
You're not threatening the young lady's place on Team GB then, or the British team?
I certainly don't think so. I might come and watch.
Oh, wonderful.
NEWSWAVE.
There are so many other things going on to make a positive impact within your jurisdiction area. I wonder if you could just touch on a couple of other things that people of St Austell may well be quite interested in.
We have this year set aside not a large sum of money, a certain amount of money to actually hold events. And try and stimulate interest within the town centre itself. And we've had various events, a very successful event to commemorate victory in Japan, where we had a parade through the town, and that was attended by the Lord Lieutenant and the High Sheriff, and we had the wonderful band of Kerno pipes and drums. They were absolutely superb. And that was followed by Company B, the Red Apple Honeys, and a whole raft of charity groups, rides and events in the town itself. That was on the 14th of August, and it was a very, very successful day indeed. We've had other events at a lower scale, a really super Teddy Bears picnic on the 23rd of August. That was only just over a week later, where everybody came, had picnics in Truro Road Park. There were a lot of stalls as well, and indeed we had a competition for the best teddies. It was quite demanding for me as the mayor and the deputy mayor, because we had to walk our way all around the park to find out where the teddies were and judge them, and eventually, having made our decisions, we had to take the prizes out and deliver them to where they needed to go. And it was probably one of the more demanding events that we were involved with. But one of real successes, I felt, was the Welly Boot contest, whereby we had 6 junior schools, all of which were advised that a Welly Boot contest was taking place, and they were provided with Welly Boots. As a result of that, in White River Place, we held the judging of 110 Welly Boots. And which was quite interesting, because it was the first time I was wearing the chain when I had to bend down, and it was not very successful. It kept dropping down, but we coped with it. And after that, we chose 3 winners for each of the schools. We went to each of the schools and presented the winning prizes, and the reception that we got from all of the schools was absolutely wonderful. I could not imagine it being any better, and I would be happy to do such a thing again. Indeed, what that has done, because 2 of the schools sung a song in their assembly, and I thought how good that was. And as a result of that, we've invited schools back to take part in a Christmas concert on the 5th of December, this time in St John's Church, whereby 4 schools will take part, and it'll be free for the public to attend. There's no competition as such. We didn't want to get into anything like that, but we wanted to see the children sing. And one of the headmasters who actually was from Bishop Bromsome School, said, please, can we all have one song that is the same for each of the schools, so at the end of the evening, all of the schools can sing that song together. And I really look forward to that.
What an incredible moment that will be. And I've been in your company watching some local young choirs singing, and it really is an incredible experience. So I hope that people of St Austell and the families and friends will take advantage of that situation, because that will be an incredible evening.
It certainly looks like being that way. But it doesn't stop there. We've had, just only in the last week, we've at the library, and our library in St Austell is outstanding. It really is a superb facility run by equally superb people. And only in last week we had Halloween bingo and a silent Halloween disco in the dark, almost in the dark, with lights, but a lot of other events going on in there. The really strange thing was they all wore headphones because it was silent, but they had a choice of 3 music tracks. So rarely did you see any 2 adjacent children doing anything like the same dance in the same rhythm. But they loved it. And the outcome was, please can we do it again next year? And that is the sort of response we love to hear.
NEWSWAVE.
One priority that was top of the list last year, and it's very, very close to being top of the list again this year, has been our efforts to curtail antisocial behaviour in the town itself. 4 years ago, we started having some wardens in the town who could walk the town and deter, to a large extent, antisocial behaviour or deal with it when it occurred. And over that 4 years, the team has expanded. We've been very fortunate to have 3 elements of funding from the St Austell bid, from the St Austell Town Council, but also from the Police and Crime Commissioner. Together, that has enabled us to have a very substantial coverage of the town by the wardens for the very benefits that I've already mentioned, to deter crime, to deal with antisocial behaviour when it occurs, but also a whole raft of other benefits that fall out of that. The ability to anticipate where shoplifters may be operating, to identify them, to make sure that shops are aware that these people are around. In addition to that, if somebody has a medical episode in the town, they are there to call upon help very, very quickly. As well as that, they are able to tell people basically where facilities are, where shops are, and act very much as a first point of contact for any assistance that may be required. In addition to that, one of the challenges we do face is that the Penwinnock site is going to be redeveloped timescales are not overly clear, but certainly in the next 1 to 5 years. We have a planning application before the Town Council at the moment, which we'll take in council within the next few weeks. And in the longer term, it's likely the Town Council will need to vacate the stable block premises that they've already got. We are looking for alternatives, and that is presenting quite a challenge to the Town Council in terms of where we go next. For the time being, we're staying put, but the longevity of that is not going to be more than a few years. So we've agreed new contracts with break clauses that will enable us either to move somewhere else or to maybe even purchase somewhere else. We're acutely aware that in St Austell we do need a town council building to operate out of. Also for the benefit of our maintenance teams who look after all our really lovely parks and our areas around the town, plant out the roundabouts, look after our parks and spaces, and do a tremendous job in making the town as presentable as it reasonably can be. And that is not something that we rest our laurels on. It's something that we continue to try and improve. And they are a very, very well motivated team. And it's very fortunate they are actually in the vicinity of the town council, because they can respond incredibly quickly to other issues. If, for instance, if somebody set fire to a litter bin in a park, they can respond very, very quickly to that. And
things are moving very quickly. As I imagine, this 6 months has gone so fast for you. We are now in the week of Remembrance. Remembrance Day is coming up just around the corner, and all the events and the parades that follows that as well. Could you just detail what it is that's happening this weekend and your involvement?
And this weekend in the town, of course, Sunday will be our main Remembrance parade and also church service in Holy Trinity Church. St Austell is fortunate enough that over the recent years the parade has grown very, very steadily, and it's a most impressive parade that will start at St John's Church. It will go through the town itself to Holy Trinity, where we will have an outside service at the memorial whereby wreaths will be laid, and that will be followed by the church service itself. After the church service, this year we'll be doing something very different. Instead of marching down South Street, the parade will reform and it will march down 4th Street again. It will turn left down Chandos Place, which is adjacent to the Poundland building. It will wheel right at the bottom into White River Place, where it will form up and then be dismissed. And that is a change to the programme, and I think it will give the community better access to seeing the parade, and I think it will be an improvement over what we've done previously.
Excellent. And no sooner than that finishes, that attentions will move towards Christmas, and there is a lighting up ceremony at the end of this month.
Absolutely. On the 29th of November, the lighting up ceremony will take place. It will be free parking in Priory Car Park, free entertainment by a raft of different bands in White River Place, but also at the Market House there will be events and activities taking place, and across the road there will be in Holy Trinity Church a winter wonderland. And last year I attended the winter wonderland. I thought it was spectacular. There were so many children in there. It was absolutely full. And when I went to speak to the vicar, I couldn't find him to start with, but he was in the far corner playing snowballs with the children. So I didn't disturb him. I left him where he was, and actually really enjoyed that environment. It was inspiring. In fact, at the White River itself, Sandy Hill School, they had young children who sang, and it was the most memorable song for me that Christmas. As a result of that, we have requested the Christmas event on the 5th of December for the schools to sing, and it started by listening to how good the children sang their song.
NEWSWAVE.
Looking forwards, there is a lot that is in the pipeline. Firstly, I've mentioned already the Penwinnock site and the redevelopment of that, and we are very keen that that be tasteful and have minimum impact on the wonderful trees and the layout that already exists there. And that we've worked hard with Cornwall Council and Treveth. I must stress Treveth because they've been responsible for it, have been very, very cooperative in the manner of which the planning is going ahead. But it has got to get the seal of endorsement from the Town Council before we can actually make that as a statement. In addition to that, we are acutely aware that the requirements for housing across the country, across Cornwall and across the towns in Cornwall are going to be quite demanding. And we are already starting to make requests to have the contact needed with the Town Council and local parishes in terms of what might be the art of the possible. But at the moment, we don't actually have a figure to aim at, so that is going to be a very, very protracted piece of work, but very, very important. In terms of success, recently Cornwall Council have moved into the town centre itself, and there is now a very successful families hub that's available there. The registry officers is there as well, and there's a drop-in facility. And the staff, as I understand it, are very pleased with their new facilities and the ability of people who previously struggled to get to the family hub and they are available to get to that hub. In addition to that, in the longer term, perhaps as late as 2029, we're now looking at having a centralised healthcare hub at Carlion House on the Carlion site, fairly close to the library, which will be a centralised centre for medical treatment, as well as doctors' facilities, etc. But that is downstream. I believe the work has already started on it, and we look forward to having that in our vicinity so that we can get the best care possible.
NEWSWAVE.
So you haven't put your feet up this 6 months, have you? You've been extremely busy, Colin. How have you found it?
It has been a very busy 6 months, and I wouldn't have traded it for anything.
Excellent. And here's to the next 6 months.
And here's to the next 6 months. It'll be a hard act to follow for the next 6 months. I think we're going to have a week's break at the end of November, where we're going to go off on holiday for a week and enjoy that and come back refreshed, I hope.
NEWSWAVE.
Now, rows of children's shoes were laid out in silent protest outside County Hall in Truro on Monday morning. It was all part of a national demonstration called Every Pair Tells a Story, highlighting failings in the SEND system across the UK. Kirsty Pellow is a representative of the Send Sanctuary UK, one of the organisations behind this movement, who joined us outside to explain more about the campaign, the stories behind the shoes, and what needs to change to ensure every child gets the education they deserve.
NEWSWAVE.
So I'm Kirsty Pellow. I'm actually a local SEND parent of 2 SEND boys. My role here today is as the local authority hub organiser. This is a national event. It's called Every Pair Tells a Story, and that was created by the Send Sanctuary UK and Let Us Learn Too. So we are one local authority amongst 94 nationally up and down the country that are taking part in this today.
Wonderful. And for people that aren't aware, tell me about the scene that's behind you now, because there's a really powerful display of children's shoes.
Absolutely. So this isn't like your standard protest. It's not loud, it's not aggressive. It is very quietly passionate. So it's a really poignant display of all of our children's shoes. So every pair here tells a story, just like our hashtag. Every pair of shoes you see here has a real child with a real story of the failures of Cornwall Council.
And when we talk about failure, what exactly is that failing?
Well, that's a really big question. So Cornwall Council specifically are quite notoriously bad at their communication. So we have got children waiting an excessively long time to be assessed for EHCPs. We have them, once they are assessed and approved for an EHCP, we have them waiting a very long time for that EHCP to come into fruition. So they are left essentially supportless and rudderless, as are their parents, as are the schools that support them. There is a real lack of positive communication. There is a real lack of transparency and accountability. Quite often Cornwall Council, and they're not alone in this, it's an issue up and down the country, but will willfully ignore statutory law, thinking that somehow they're above that. And it requires our SEND parents to have a really intimate knowledge of SEND law that we never wanted to have in order to be able to get the support we need for our children.
For people that aren't aware, EHCP, what does that mean? What does it represent? And what's the policy? Well, what should it look like, first of all?
So an EHCP is an education and healthcare plan. It's a legal working document. So in other words, if you needed it to go to court and be legally upheld, that is what it should be. So EHCPs should be, obviously what it says on the tin, should support a child's educational, health, social care needs. And what it needs to be essentially adhering to SMART targets, and that's basically, it's time specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's realistic, it's appropriate to the child. And unfortunately, by the time parents actually get their EHCPs, having gone through that refusal to assess and appealing through the process, and then finally getting that first draft, often they're finding those EHCPs are not even fit for purpose, and they're not even legally upholdable. And then you've got the fight then to make it so, which then can then take a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. Sometimes you never even get there and your child leaves school. That's what we're dealing with.
And that is a huge amount of time in anyone's life, but in a young person's life, that's an incredible, you're talking 4, 5, possibly never even coming to fruition either.
Absolutely.
That's the building blocks for that young person for the rest of their lives, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, children are leaving secondary education without any support at all. They're leaving without any GCSEs, they're leaving without qualifications, they are leaving without peers, they're leaving without a clear plan of where to go next. And how to thrive and how to reach their full potential. Whole childhoods are lost, whole families are broken by this system.
We see a huge amount of shoes, which really puts it into perspective, but I'm sure to get an even better appreciation, this is only the tip of the iceberg, I'm sure.
It is, and as I've already said to sort of other media here today, we are looking at this as a Monday morning. This is the first Monday back after half term. So actually you're looking at a very real reality here of almost, yes, there are a lot of shoes here, there are a lot of stories here, but this is not proportional to the amount of people it should represent. If that was the case, we'd be filling up this whole atrium and more. I think we'd probably extend it to the car park. But this is the reality of actually, we've got children we've got parents who've got children that can't be here today because their children are not in school, because they are exhausted, because they're fighting chronic illnesses themselves, because they're single parents, because they're trying to regulate their child enough to get them across a school threshold, because they're battling with emails and phone calls and communication and their children's mental health. So just because there isn't a colossal turnout that maybe there could be in other parts of the country doesn't mean our plight is not as serious.
Absolutely. What are you hoping is achieved from this today and from conversations you'll be having hopefully after today?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm sure you've had conversations beforehand as well, so where's all this going? What would you like to be able to achieve?
So the actual movement itself, the Every Pair Tells a Story, is about, we want unity, we want collaboration with the local authorities, we want collaboration with our government. As I'm sure you're aware, the White Sandpaper reforms have been delayed again, and I think that's because they've put some ideas out there. The response they've gotten back to that is a massive pushback, particularly from the SEND community, and I think they've had a look at that and it's given them pause to reflect, actually, maybe we're not getting this right here, and maybe we need to pause and readdress some things. And I'm kind of hoping that in the meantime, our SEND parents can slot ourselves in the gap here. And with these demonstrations, these peaceful, respectful demonstrations, we can demonstrate actually our voices are not going anywhere, our passion for our children is not going anywhere, and we need to be a part of the conversation. We actually need to be integral. You cannot improve services if you don't listen to the service users. And I think it's less about money, it's less about budgets, and it's about the outcomes of people. Because naturally, if you improve the childhood outcomes, you improve the adult outcomes, you will improve what our children will contribute to society over their lifetime.
This wasn't a secret that this was happening today. Has anybody from the council or other representatives approached you, and have you been able to have a conversation with them?
Yeah, so as part of our courtesy as a national event, as hub organisers, we approached the police and we approached Cornwall Council and let them know a few weeks in advance of the events today. Nobody from Cornwall Council has come out to speak to us today. Where
can people find out more information about this? Whether they're parents going through similar things, because this story will be repeated up and down the country, not just here in Cornwall. Whether they're parents, whether they're young people who are recognising some of the themes and trends, whether they're somebody who feels like they're able to support, whether it's an organisation who actually are just waking up to this issue, or might be able to do something. Where can they join the conversation? How best can they support you?
That's a really good question. So obviously nationally, as we are part of Every Pair Tells a Story, they can contact the Send Sanctuary UK. They can also get in touch with Let Us Learn Too, two really essential movements. Also to be part of things from a sort of wider national sort of political frame, if you like, they can look into a group on Facebook called Stop the Children's Wellbeing Bill, because as I'm sure you're aware at the moment, there's a real punitive attack on our youth at the moment. It's not done with compassion, it's not done with empathy. Teachers, parents, children, they're all saying education is not working. They've all very loudly said the Children's Wellbeing Bill is not fit for most children, particularly children with SEND disabilities. There is a lot of poor reflection on the SEND white paper as well at the moment. So and locally, we are actually so blessed to have such a fantastic SEND parent community in Cornwall. So there is the SEND parent chat page, which you can find on Facebook. There's also Parent Carer Cornwall and Parent Carer Forum. They're also brilliant, and honestly, what these SEND parents don't know about SEND law and education isn't worth knowing. You need community. When you fight these systems, you need community. It's the only thing that gives you hope.
NEWSWAVE.
That was Kirsty Pellow from the Send Sanctuary UK, speaking about the Every Pair Tells a Story campaign and the urgent need for reform in the SEND system. The voices of local families truly bring the message home, and having spoken to Kirsty, we were then joined by Michelle West, a parent from Cornwall who spent over a decade navigating the SEND system for her two neurodivergent children.
NEWSWAVE.
My name's Michelle West. I have got two children who are neurodivergent, and we started our journey with the SEND system about 10 years ago. It has been an absolute fight and battle to be able to get the support that my children are legally entitled to in regards to their education. Both of my children are neurodivergent, got very different needs. And both were struggling in a mainstream setting. And when we were asked for help, there was very much a no and very much an element of parent blame. We continued to fight, and during that time my children went into crisis with their mental health. Both of them were really struggling with very poor mental health from being in an inappropriate education setting. I had to take the LA to tribunal twice and have had a successful complaint to the LGO that recognised the failure of the LA to provide alternative education for my child when he couldn't attend school. He was out of school in total for 8 months. We're left with absolutely no education at all. That has a huge impact on us as a family. I had to give up my job to be able to look after him and care for him, and I was the main wage earner in our family, so that was hugely impactful for all of us. I feel like we have been fortunate. I was able to study SEND law and was able to take on the LA and win at tribunal and get my children the education setting they required. They had bespoke education for 3 years, and my youngest is now back in a specialist education setting. My eldest is at college and they're thriving. And with the right education, the right support, they're now doing really well. And that was all I ever wanted. I just wanted an education that could meet their needs. Like any other parent, I wanted to send my children to school and for them to be happy and healthy. And I shouldn't have had to fight the LA for as many years as I did to achieve that. As a consequence of that, I decided I wanted to support other families, and I set up a support group. It's an online support group, and we now have over 1,000 parents from Cornwall on that group, all dealing with similar issues. And I try to share some knowledge and experience and just letting them know that they're not alone in this fight. These children deserve an education just like anybody else.
Why must you fight so hard? We always talk about that when we visit events like this, demonstrations, protests, have conversations with organisations that feel downtrodden or misrepresented or underrepresented or ignored. Why must there be a fight for something which, if you break it down, is a very basic level right to have education and to be treated fairly?
Unfortunately, it all comes down to funding, and we understand that. We understand there's no funding, but that is not our children's fault. And if you want my child to be a successful, contributing adult, contributing to society, having a job, living independently, then they have a right to an education that allows them to achieve that. If we hadn't been able to fight, they wouldn't be able to have that in the future. So I think the funding cuts on the mainstream system has really impacted children who once upon a time might have been able to cope in mainstream settings, and they're now not coping in mainstream settings. The lack of TA support, the focus on attendance and behaviour and the academic drive is pushing a lot of children into a place where they can't cope. And I think that is why we're seeing a crisis in our education system. We know that 92% of the children who are persistently absent from school are neurodivergent. That says a huge amount about the failures of the system.
And we're here today. You have a huge number of shoes representing the children who have been let down and failed by the education and the SEND systems. You represent over 1,000 families as well. If we were to have all of those shoes lined up here, we could probably fill the whole car park and probably go over the road as well, which just shows the scale. And this is being replicated up and down the country as well today, isn't it?
Yep, this isn't a local issue, this is a national issue. This is happening around the whole country. However, Cornwall are having significant failings of their own. They're in the bottom 4 of the local authorities who are producing their EHCPs within the legal framework of 20 weeks. Last year they were the bottom 2. This year they're the bottom 4. Less than 7% are being completed in the 20-week legal deadline, and that's a huge failing on our children. The national average is about 50%. So yes, it is a national issue, but Cornwall have got some significant problems.
I'm sure you're doing an already incredible job supporting those families that you are working with every day, but just to amplify that to families that might just be at the very start of their journey, or who haven't engaged with the support that you're providing and the conversation and the resource and the advice, where can they go to start a conversation with yourself and the team, or where can they go even if they want to offer support, if they've been through this? How can they join the conversation? How can they help make a difference?
There are some really excellent groups that they can join. Parent Carer Cornwall is a huge group that offers support right across the county for children with a huge range of needs, and parents can join that group. We've also got a Parent Carer Forum that they can join. I run Send Parent Chat Cornwall, which can be found on Facebook. It's an online support service. There are also groups like PINS, which are being run at the moment, which is improving inclusion in mainstream schools, and that's running across another 30 schools I think this year. So if parents have got PINS groups running in their schools, get involved and they can help share that support with other people, and they're running coffee mornings and things like that. So there's a lot of support out there, you've just got to look for it, and I think it's really important that people know they're not alone.
It's a sliding scale, because I'm going to ask about positive outcomes, and that could look like one more family being supported and that difference being made to that one more family. It could range from something like that to huge systematic changes and policy changes. But what would, if I ask you now, what would a positive outcome from today look like for someone like yourselves and the families that you represent?
I think there's been a huge increase in demand for EHCPs and support for children with SEND needs across the country and across the county. We absolutely recognise that, but the LA have to address that. They have to address their staffing issues and ensure that they are meeting their legal duties in completing EHCPs within 20 weeks. Without an EHCP, these children cannot get the support they need. That would be our number one ask, and improved communication between the LA and the parents.
Is there anything else you'd like to add at all? We've covered a huge amount of ground, but is there anything you think's important for people to hear, or anything we might not have covered?
If you're out there and you're struggling, if you think your child has got SEND needs and you need help, reach out, look for a parent support group and ask for that help, because you really are not alone, and there's lots of good advice and good support out there.
NEWSWAVE.
Now, Cornwall Council responded to Monday's demonstration by making the following statement. It reads, Cornwall Council acknowledges the concerns raised during the SEND Sanctuary shoe protest, and we share the commitment to improving experience and outcomes for children and young people with special educational needs and disabilities in Cornwall. Across England, the SEND system faces unprecedented pressures. In Cornwall, requests for education, health and care needs assessments have risen by 150% since 2019, creating significant strain on services. Families, professionals and young people are understandably anxious as we await the publication of national SEND reforms in spring 2026. The statement continues, SEND is not just an education issue, it involves health, social care and education working together as a local area SEND partnership. Our integrated approach ensures that services are aligned and accountable, with joint commissioning and performance monitoring embedded across the system. Despite financial challenges, Cornwall has taken proactive steps to increase provision and improve supports, including new area resource base in Redruth, specialist schools opened at Curie and Bosvenna for social, emotional and mental health needs, Cardrew Court School opened for autism spectrum condition, and an expansion of existing special schools, including satellite provision at Carder and Roscadgill. The statement concludes, we will continue to work with parents, carers, children, young people and partners to ensure that every child and young person in Cornwall can learn, thrive and achieve. While challenges remain, our shared vision is clear, a system that is inclusive, sustainable and focused on positive outcomes. Now, for more on this story and much more besides, head to chaosnews.uk.
NEWSWAVE.
Right, while we're on the subject of chaosnews.uk, let me introduce to you that very new website that we have just launched. Chaos News is Cornwall's home for community storytelling, sharing real voices, local perspectives and original content from across the Duchy. Powered by Chaos Radio, we shine a light on the people, places and projects that make Cornwall so unique, taking the time to celebrate achievements, but also to break down barriers and press for positive change. Now, Chaos News builds on the creative legacy, if you like, of the Chaos Group and its sister station Chaos Radio, which began broadcasting online in 2018. Fast forward to 2023 and the station expanded its reach through a merger with Radio St Austell Bay, Cornwall's first Ofcom licensed community radio station, bringing local voices to 105.6 FM across St Austell and beyond. Today, the station continues to champion community-led content, supported by a passionate team of volunteers and digital creatives. Chaos News builds on that legacy, offering a platform for articles, interviews and videos that reflect Cornwall's vibrant and diverse communities. So, if it matters to your community, it matters to us. Whether it's a local cause, a creative idea or a story waiting to be told, we are here to amplify it. Proudly regulated by Impress, we believe in inclusive media, authentic storytelling and putting the trust back into journalism with apolitical, socially focused and wholly transparent content. Welcome to Chaos News, where Cornwall comes to life.
NEWSWAVE.
Right, I'm Tom Howe and you're listening to NEWSWAVE on Chaos Radio. You've heard enough of my voice for a moment, so let's share the wealth and talk to some excellent community organisations, starting with the Cornwall Community Flood Forum. Now, as flooding is becoming more common, are you as prepared as you could be? Amy Richardson and Emma Newberry from Cornwall Community Flood Forum joined Cheryl Gordon to chat about flood resilience and their conference on Friday the 7th of November with the theme Preparing for a Changing Environment.
NEWSWAVE.
Cornwall Community Flood Forum is a charitable incorporated organisation and we're committed to supporting those at risk of flooding in Cornwall. So the forum actually came about in 2010 after widespread flooding across the county. I think over 300 houses were impacted by flooding. So the communities kind of came together after this event and decided that they should share their skills and knowledge to help other communities. And then we were kind of formed as a charity in 2012. We help communities. Our primary aim is to help communities prepare flood plans so that they know what to do, what they can do in the event of a flood or other emergency.
How can businesses and households in Cornwall prepare for and recover from flood events?
So we have a lot of resources available on our website to help both businesses, communities and homeowners prepare for flooding. So there's like business flood plan templates or personal flood plan templates that are available. And it's just kind of knowing, okay, if there's a flood, what do I need to do? Do I need to make sure the electric's turned off? Do I need to move things upstairs? Have I got an emergency grab bag? So having a grab bag so that in an event of a flood or an emergency, you've got everything in one place and you're not panicking. You can quickly get that. So that might have things like a torch in it, clothes, important documents like insurance or your passport. And then there's also things like property flood resilience. So property flood resilience measures can either stop the water coming in, so like flood doors or flood barriers, or it could also be resilience measures, so raising your boiler or raising your sockets or having tiled floors in the house. So that's like a really good way of reducing the damage that flood water can cause if it does enter, or trying to stop it entering in the first place.
Sure, yeah, it's definitely being organised and knowing where these factors are. Especially for a business, you've got a responsibility also to the people that you employ to ensure to try and keep them as safe as possible. So it's a sort of making sure that you've got every box ticked in that respect as well. Now, you are supported by community flood wardens. What's the role they play and how can people become one?
Yeah, sure. So we've got community flood wardens, and they kind of play this, quite a big role in some of our community flood groups, which we currently have them formed all across Cornwall. You can see if you're part of one of them on our website, and if you're not yet, then please get in touch with us, because we can help you to become a flood group and become a flood warden. But flood wardens are really, they're kind of the eyes and ears on the ground in a community. If you imagine you walk your dog every morning and you walk past several drains on your way, it might just mean, oh, is that drain blocked, or what can I do about that? Can I let someone know? Or so that, I guess they're involved both before, during and after a flood event, but that's where that local knowledge is really, really important. As much as, say, for example, Amy and I can sit in an office and write a plan for a location, we will never know as much as what local people know, and that's where that really, really comes into why flood wardens are really important. They've got that local knowledge, so during an event, if they've got radios, for example, they might be out and about in small groups, checking the flooded areas and advising people on what they might need to do to keep safe. But they can be like, oh, we're by the pub on the corner, and someone else up in the office can then be like, okay, that's where I need to send help first. Or
I guess like the flood wardens, they kind of know like where the pinch points are in the community, and that's really useful information. So say if there's flooding across the county, we're quite isolated in Cornwall, and the emergency services obviously might be trying to go to lots of different places, and that might not be your community. But so it's like, what can you do in that initial phase? And obviously keeping yourself safe, but you can communicate. You as a community, they'd know the best way to communicate with each other and let people know, make sure they've made any precautions necessary. And then when the emergency services do arrive, they can also be like, okay, you need to go to this place, or someone over there needs extra help. So that's like a really valuable, it saves time and makes it more efficient.
Yeah, sometimes it's about going back to basics. I think in the world we live in, we're very much on screens or on our phones, and it's almost going back to that, do you know your neighbours? Get to know your neighbours, which might sound silly, but we often talk about things like power outage and other emergencies that happen across Cornwall as well. It is just going back to that basics of get to know your community, and I guess we're all responsible for looking after each other and making sure that, like Amy said, we can get help to the right people first. So, you might also know that, I don't know, Janice up the road is 97, and we know that if she needs to evacuate, she's going to need a bit more time, or we should go and check on her, or little things like that actually in the grand scheme make a really, really big difference.
Your annual conference is coming up on Friday the 7th of November at the Royal Cornwall Showground. What can we expect this year from the event?
It's aimed at communities in Cornwall, particularly those that might be at risk of flooding, but also other emergencies as well. So we'll have a wide range of speakers, so both professional, people from relevant agencies or academics, but also community groups. So it's focused around kind of emergency preparedness to flooding and also adapting to coastal change. So we'll have some speakers in the morning and then interactive workshops in the afternoon to really get people engaged and thinking. And then we also have like a number of different standholders from different agencies and communities that you can kind of network with. So we find it's quite a useful event for flood groups to kind of connect with each other, maybe learn from each other. You might have a community that hasn't started their flood plan yet, but they might have a conversation with one that has an active flood group, and then that can kind of spark some ideas about how you go about that. We have limited tickets left in person, but we have quite a lot online, so we also do it hybrid, so people can join online and just drop in to see certain speakers they're interested, or come for the whole of the morning.
Now, the conference centres around being prepared for a changing environment. Why is this thing so topical right now?
The environment we're living in is changing, and what that means is that we're seeing more flash flooding. We're seeing really, really intense rainfall in like a short amount of time. And what we kind of wanted the conference to be around this year was, what can we do before an event happens to prepare, to adapt for that, I guess, as an eventuality of, okay, if that does happen, we're much better to think about it now than to think about it afterwards, in the sense of, oh, I really wish I had that plan, or I wish I thought about that, or I wish I did that. See, I can't control the weather. However, I can control how that impacts me.
Yeah.
And how we do have some control over how emergencies, I guess, impact you, and trying to lessen that impact and making sure that you can, recover quicker and bounce back to, I guess, a new normal.
For anyone listening who wants to get involved and learn more, what's the best way to connect with your organisation and access resources?
Yeah, the best way to keep up to date with what we're up to and find our resources, probably via the Cornwall Community Flood Forum website. You can also find us on Instagram and Facebook on the lead up to the conference as well. We've got various sneak peeks. So if you are coming along, you can see little segments of sort of what to expect, I guess, on the day. Yeah, and you can find all of our contact details on the website as well. And if you are interested in volunteering or starting up a flood group, or you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with Amy or I.
NEWSWAVE.
Welcome back to NEWSWAVE with me, Tom Howe, here on Chaos Radio. Now it's time for some exciting news and something we're really proud of here at Chaos. 2025 marked the 10th Community Radio Awards and celebrated 20 years since the launch of community radio here in the UK, making this year's event more meaningful than ever. Now, the Community Radio Awards have been set up to celebrate community radio and all the hard work and time that the volunteers in the community radio put into their stations, shows and communities. The awards are a judge-led process with judges drawn from the community radio sector, academics, other radio, associated areas and the third sector too. They are run not for profit, completely independent of any organisation or association, and by a team of volunteers with experience of radio in all forms and sectors, from student community to the BBC and commercial. Now, new for 2025 was a category for elections and political coverage of the year, and we are so proud to have come away with the Silver Award for our Your Voice Matters broadcast ahead of the general election in 2024, and to even be considered amongst such brilliant community radio stations was just truly fantastic. We had a brilliant time at the awards and the conference that preceded it, and watch this space, we'll be back next year.
NEWSWAVE.
Okay, that's all we've got time for on this week's edition of NEWSWAVE. A big Chaos Radio thank you to Colin Hamilton, Mayor of St Austell, Amy Richardson and Emma Newberry from the Cornwall Community Flood Forum, and to Kirsty Pellow from the Send Sanctuary UK, and Michelle West, a mother who has spent more than a decade navigating the Send system for her two neurodivergent children. And as ever, a final thank you to you for listening and helping support local journalism to thrive. To catch up on all our coverage, as well as to check out our extensive back catalogue of interviews and shows, head on over to chaos.radio. And remember, if you have a local news story that you'd like to share with us, email news@chaos.radio or search Chaos Radio UK across socials. That's it, you're up to date here on Chaos. I'm Tom Howe. Thank you so much for listening and bearing with us these 100 episodes. What a remarkable achievement. Whatever it is that you're doing this week, as I always say, be sure to add a little chaos.
NEWSWAVE.
Chaos.radio. Music, podcasts, entertainment.